Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So let's continue with this talking about the file input output, and this time we will just go with the exercises just to practice all the different methods of opening a file, for reading, for writing, text file, binary file, and we practice working with those inshallah. So we start with these exercises, these very small exercises basically, just to allow you to practice, but I'm going to use them as a platform to also talk about different things. So let's start with the first one, right? A Java program that creates a text file named file1.txt and a text file, write your name and ID. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new project that I'm going to name week12. I will put all these in one place, all these exercises in one place, so we can practice them all. And yeah, so I'm going to create a project called week12 that I'm putting inside this folder. I would like you to know exactly where the folder is, because I would like to work with the path and to know where my file is going to be when I create the file. I'd like you to know where the file is. So now the project doesn't exist. As soon as I create it, I'm going to see a folder with week12 in this src. Okay, so let's start. Finish, come back here. This is the week12. This is my folder with the NetBeans project. It's creating the files, etc. So I'm just getting ready. That's my project. So here I will put my code here. Later on, if I need to, I'm going to create some methods, which actually I will do that, which is better. So let's go back here. Right. So we'd like to create this is the name of the file, and how to do that. To create a file, it means I need to do an output, not an input. But I'm not. If the file doesn't exist, it will be created, and that's what I'm going to do. So to do that, the class print writer. So I need to get an object from that, and this is my, I'm going to say the output stream. I'm going to just keep it as an output. This is my output, and let's create new print writer, the new file output stream, and inside I will put the name of the file I would like to create and a semicolon. I think I can just reduce this so I can see better. So now notice, as soon as I write this, I have a red line. Why? Basically, well, this one, because it just complains that it doesn't find it. I need to import it. I thought by using control space it will import it. So let's import that. So I'm importing the print writer, the file output stream. But actually this is the error message that I was looking for. And the reported exception, file not found exception, must be caught or declared to be thrown. Now, as a reminder, if there's this checked exceptions, like these ones, this file not found exception, I have two options. Either I make the method that is going to that is calling this doing this statement that it raises, that might raise the exception. Either I make it throw that exception. That means those that are going to be calling this method will have to try and catch it. Or if I don't do that, the other option is to have a try catch. Now by default it gives this, but what I'm going to do, I need just to have something that says, okay, there was a problem, and I can mention what's some more information about that problem by doing this ex.getMessage. So the get message is going to display some message. So now what I'm doing here, I'm just opening an output stream to be able to save something inside that file. And then once this is going to be done without exceptions, I will just use this output. And then I can use this print or println. I'd like to add two type of information, the ID and name. So ID, I don't know, let's put this as my ID, and then my name. I can put them in one line, everything in one here, but I prefer to have like 2 lines. Let's just have the printer in again, and then the name is Mohammed. The last part that I should not forget is the close. So once I'm done, I need to close. So that's what is going to happen. I start by creating the file. If it doesn't exist, it will be created. And then I put this information inside the file. Of course, this is a text file. And then I'm going to close after I'm done. Now, when I'm going to run here, I just would like you to, let's go back here so I can see. Notice the files here. These are the 2 files that I have, the 3 folders. Now, when I'm going to run this program, I will have an extra file here, which is going to be the file 1.txt. It will be in the folder project. So let's see that. Let's run. And it's done. I'm not displaying anything on the console, so that's why I'm not seeing anything, which is all right. And I have this file 1.txt. Double click on it, you'll be able to see that information. So now this is just as I mentioned in the previous video, that the txt is just an extension that allows the operating system to know which file to open, which application to open this file with. But actually, I can do this. If I do this, check what is going to happen. Okay, hold on. Oh, it's a Word file. But actually, it's not a Word file. It's just like these 2 information that are in there. So it says plain text, converted from there, and then now this is what I have. Or if I put it into not doc but XLS, which is Excel, it's going to be open now another file. If I double click on it, Excel is going to open it, and it's going just to show the same information, but just now which application is going to be used to show that information. That's what this extension is for. So actually, it's just maybe let's try the last one, HTML or HTML. Let me know if I run it again, an extra one that's going to be opened with Chrome. Yeah, but it's basically the same thing, same type of information that is available inside the file. So yes, but I'm not interested into all those. I can just delete them all. And hold on, let's go back to txt. Now if I run this, it will just create the file, the txt. Now I'd like you to realize one thing is that if I close the file and then change some information, like something like this, the previous content is going to be removed and the new one is going to be put in. So every time I run the code, it just erases what was before, and it will just start again. And if I'd like not to erase it, there's only one simple thing. It's just put a comma here and make it true. Now you see, every time I run, it will just open and add to whatever was there before. So there's this, and then I'm not seeing everything. I would like to maybe hide this so I can see the code much better. So it's open. I'm opening this. Actually, no, this is not the place for that. It should be here. In this file output stream, I'm opening it with true. Now let's run it. And let's go back. Let's close this one first. This is the first one from before, and this is the new one. And every time I'm going to run, it will just add a new pair. Of course, you see now it's not changed. Why? Because I'm opening the old file. I need to run again, close them, open again, so I can see now 3 times, and so on. But this is just extra stuff that I wanted to talk about. But for the first question, that's what was needed. Now, if I remove this, just run, it will just delete all that was in the file and start from scratch. All right. Right there, we're going to append your telephone number to the file. Okay, that's basically what we did. But now I don't want to always do this all the time, so I'm going to take this and put it into a method. I'm going to call question1. Public static. It has to be static because I'm using it from the main. Void. I'm going to call it question1. How about that? And I'm putting this there. And then all I need to do is I use question1. This is going to execute this. If I'd like to use question2, void question2. This question2, what is it going to do? Basically the same thing, except that I will open this with appending, which making this to be true, and then inside I just like to put the phone, which is 0555 555 whatever. And let's run. Now, of course, I'm not seeing anything because I'm not displaying anything. But if I open the file, what happened? What happened is that even though the code question2 is there, I did not call it. So I need to not forget to call the question2. So let's run so I can see that. Question1 and question2, go back, open. Now this is the phone that was added. All right. Now let's write it that creates a file called file2 that should use a loop. Well, basically, just we do the same, and instead of it's like question1, but this time we use a loop to put some data in it. It's all right. So what I'm going to do: copy this, paste it. Let's write question3, and we would like to call open file2, right? That's the file2.txt, and we need to put a loop to put inside the file the numbers from 1 to 10. All right. So instead of doing it this, what I'm going to do, close and remove. I just need to make a loop from 1 to 10. It's better to have something like this. So yeah. Notice I'm going to leave it like from this, no problems. And then let's paste I plus 1 inside that. So when it's 0, it's going to add and print 1 and go back to the line and so on. So it's just going to do this, open the file, put the numbers in a loop, and close the file. And let's call this question3. I don't need to always call the rest, so let's call question3, and let's run again. Okay, let's go back. This is now the new file that was created. Double click, and 1 to 10. Okay, so we're done with this exercise number 3. Let's go for the exercise number 4, where we write a program to read the file created in the question number 1, which is this one, and display the content on the console using the class scanner. All right, so let's just do that. Now let's call it question 4. And basically, you know what? But no, I wanted to copy, but I remember that now I'm not writing, I'm reading. So let's call it question 4. And for that question 4, what I need to do is need to use the scanner to be able to read from the file. So, but this time I'm going to this input. I'm going to use a scanner, but not with the system.in that we used to do, but this time with the new file input stream. All right, the computer is scanner. All right. New file input stream, and the name of the file is going to be file1.txt. Of course, it's the same idea. I need to surround the statement with the try catch, and I can just mention here there was a problem opening the file while reading the file. Let's just make it like that. And now that I have that, I have opened the file. I need to read from it. So how do I read from it? Actually, I need to know what's inside the file. There's two ways. There's the easy way, which actually I will show you. This is the one, but you need to know exactly how many, what do you have inside your file. You remember we added this in the question number 1, but then we added also this when we appended the file. Now we have 3 lines to read. So what I'm going to do is, let's just do something like this. I would like to display on the screen something that I'm going to get from the next line. Okay, so I will do that 3 times. So I'm reading 3 lines, and then I'm going to close once I'm done. And let's call the question number 4. What I'm expected to see is this is the content of file 1. However, there's a better way by doing a loop. Actually, I'm just going to read a line, and I need to put that into a loop that is going to repeat as long as while, remember this input, this is has next. If it's true that it has a next, that means there's something to read, then I'm going to read it, read the line, and then again, is there anything else to read? Yes, read the line. Is there anything to read? Yes, read the line. Is there anything else to read? No, okay, get out, and then you close the file. So that's what I'm going to do, which will give us the same result. But the advantage, I don't need to count how many lines do I have and everything. I just need to put it in a loop, and I'm done. And that concludes the question number 4. All right. And actually, you know what? I just did it with 4 and 5. Rewrite the program in question 4 and use the loop to check the end of the file. Okay, that's what we did. So that's actually 4 and 5. And I would like to keep, this is 5 now, but you know what? I'm just going to do something. Just copy and paste. And this is 4 and this is 5. And in this 4, I'm just going to just have these 3 times. This is 4 and this is 5. And yeah, I can do that. So we did 4 and 5 now. Write the program, the Java program, to read the numbers written in the text file in question 3, which is this file 2, into an array, and display the array content in the I/O in the console. Rewrite the array content in another, and rewrite the array content in another text file named arraycont.txt using the scanner to read. Alright, so we need to do 2 things. So we need to read from the text file using this scanner. And then we will put the information, the text file of, this is file number 2, file 2, that has these numbers, and we need to put them in an array, and then we will write it down from the array inside another file. So we're going to read and write in the same program. So let's just do that. Okay, public static void question 6. So let's just first of all read. So I'm just going to copy this, just to have the try catch and the read, and I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to keep that as well. And instead of file 1, I'll make it file 2. I'm going to read until the end of the text. So, but before that, I need to have an array. So the array is going to be an array of ints. So let's just do that. And we know that we have like 10 ints. So I might make an array of 10. And then I'm going to read every time. And there are two ways to read. Either I read a number by using next int, or I use the string and then I convert it to number, which doesn't make sense. Actually, we can use the power of scanner to make it as an int. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have this array of I, and I know it's 10. I have 10 of them, but imagine even if I don't know, I'm going to make an array of a size that I maybe know how many. Let's say 100, because I don't know if I don't know how many values I have, I can just put like a maximum number and then work with it. But in this case, we know it's 10, so we can just work this out. I'm going to have to declare the I to be like this, and then what I'm going to do is put array of I, which is 0 at this time, and then I'm going to put something in it, and then after that I'm going to increment. I can put that in one line, but I did not want to confuse you. I will do that in one line later, just as soon as I finish writing what needs to be done here. Okay, what needs to be done here is this, next int. So I'm reading an int from the file, I'm putting it in I, in array of I, and then increment I, which, as I said, I can put it in one line by just doing this. I'm going to take the read an int from the input, put it in the array of I, and then increment, because the plus plus is after, I will increment later. So I will increment after, and then increment. So it will be 0, 1, 2, 3. When I'm done here, I is going to be 11. But then I will have all the values from 0 to 9 in the indices. Sorry, it's going to be 10, not 11. Because when it's going to be 9, this has next, it will stop. Or will it? So let's just test it and see how it's going to work. And this is question number 6. I finished reading, so I'm closing the file. And just to be able to see what's inside the array, I'm just going to have to do something like this. And just display array of j, because I have j there. And it puts a space. I just want to have them in all one line. Okay, all in one line. Just print, and then print it in. Let's run. Now question number 6, and I have all the file, all the values, and I go back to that. So at this point, I just did this just to make sure that to see that my array is actually filled properly with all the values from 1 to 10. And just to see it again, what's the value of I when, sorry, I, not 10, because I was expecting it to be 10, but just, yeah, so the I is 10, because it's from 0 to 9, then it will stop if there's nothing else to read, and that's it. And actually, there's another interesting thing. If I had something else, for example, some other text in the file, I have some. After that, I have some text like this, something like that, and I don't want to read them because obviously they're not ints, right? I don't want to read them because this says has next. Has next is check. There's another token in the input. This method is going to block while waiting for the input to scan, and if there's something else to read. It returns true if and only if the scanner has another token, something else to read. But if I just use control space, actually you can see there's a null of has next. It has next. If I'm looking for a specific type of data type, I'm just looking for if there's another int to read. if there's another string, I don't need to look at that. I need just another int. I can just use this as well, has next int, and this one is going just to make sure it's the same in this case. But actually, no, it's the same because of this, actually. Now, let me just show you something interesting. Now, what is going to happen is, if I just use has next with more information. Now, notice, file 2 has more than just the numbers. It has something else afterwards. And if I run this, you see what happened? Now, what happened is that I have an exception, input mismatch exception. And there was a problem here in this this line, because at that point it finished reading all the numbers and there's still something else to read. Has next means, is there anything else to read? And there was something else to read, like this ASD. But then it tried to convert it to an int, because it tried to read an int, but it couldn't. So if I do something like this now, and I run it, it's not going to look for those as something to read, because I'm asking just if is there any other ints to read, and that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm interested in. That's why if I'm looking only for ints, it's better to use this has next int. So even if the file has more information but I don't need it, then it will just restrain to whatever I need. Okay, so I'm just going to save it back as it was, and I made my point. So instead of just has next, it has next int. That's, in this case, the best thing to do. Now, I don't need this. I just used it just for you to show you actually the content of the array. But I will use the loop, because I know that I have in my array 10, or maybe, you know what, I'm just going to array.length, which is which makes more sense. And then instead of putting that on the console, I'd like to save that in a file. So I need to open a file to write in it. So print writer. This is my output. New print writer. New file output stream. And inside that file, I'm just going to give the new file the new name, which is this here. Now I opened this file, and you know what? Now the message, there was a problem while reading. I'm not reading here, so I can just make the message more general. There was a problem while writing the file, and I can just be more specific by adding this ex.getMessage. The get message will give me the detail of the exception. So if there's some message that comes with the exception, I will see it, and I will display it now in the console. So I have opened the file, hopefully successfully, and then once I open the file, I have this loop, and instead of doing this, actually I can just do this output now. And it has print, which conveniently, I'm going to keep the rest, same thing. Now, you notice that now I'm going to just read this and print them one next to the other on the same line, just so I can see actually something different from here. I have them each one in a line, but now I'd like to put them on the same line, and that's what I'm doing with here, because I'm just putting print and then put a space afterwards. And when I'm done, don't forget always, you open, you work with the file, and then you close. And let's run. This is question 6. It's done completely. Let's just go here. We should have array content, and these are all in one line with the last space here, which is great. And this concludes the question number 6. Okay, now read the numbers written in the text file into an array, display the array into the console. And did I display the array? Oh, actually, I was meant to display them and then save them. So I forgot to do that. Hold on. Let me correct this one. I need to keep this basically and say something like here, the content of the array, and then hold on, and then put this for, and yeah, system dot print. So now that I displayed the array, and then I'll put some comments to make it more readable. Read the values from the file. This is display the content. Display in the console, and then write write the array in another file. And that's what I did. So that's actually question 6. Now question 7. Write a program to read the numbers written in question 3 into an array, display the array content, rewrite the array content in another text file named array content, using this time the buffered reader. So instead of using the scanner, you're going to use the buffered reader. Now the difference between the two is that, let me just copy this one. Question number 6. What you call it, 7. Now instead of using the scanner, I will use the buffered reader. Now with the buffered reader, I'm not going to use the file input stream. I'm going to keep this the same data type, but here actually there's the file reader that I need to use. File, hold on, new file reader, and this new file reader, I'm just going to put this file name in it. And of course, I don't have this has next int because this input has something else. So what does it have? It has this read. Now notice that I have read and read line. The read gives me an int, which is a char. Actually, if I'm going to use one char at a time, I'm going to read that. Or the read line is going to read the whole line. And in file 2, what I'm doing, the content are on each sorry, this one is file 2. The contents are each one on different lines, so I'm going to read each line separately. So I'm going to do this. Read line. But the line is a string. However, I need to know if this, what I'm reading, is actually null or not, because this is how I know if I reach the end of the file using a buffered reader, I will only know when this returns null. But in the beginning, I don't know if it contains something that returns null. So I need to do something like this. So this is the line that I'm going to read, and I do something like this. And then I can put, if the line is different from null, that means I know that what I read is something that is different than null. So this line here contains the number. I need to convert it using this integer. Okay, dot parse int, and I put the line. That means I'm taking this line that I read, I convert it to an int, and then I store it into the array the same way I used to do. And then when I'm done, actually I need to read again for the next line. And it says, like you see this, unreported exception, because you remember the IO exception needs to be caught because of this read line. But what I'm going to do, because I'd like to show I'd like to show you something different, I can just do IO exception. I'm catching all the IO exception. Of course, I just need to import it because they're not imported. Now you see, this is going to, if I have find not found exception because of this line, it's going to be under IO exception. If I have read line that has this IO exception, okay, we have IO exception. So I'm going to be able to just within one try catch, I have one catch, can catch them all. But if I don't want to do that, the other way is to add another catch for that, for this one. So I'm just add a catch close, yes. So I'm just adding another catch for this IO exception, and then I can say there was a problem reading or writing, or give any different message. So because I don't want to do that, I just would like to keep it like this. It's better, but sometimes it's better actually to have a specific message based on the exception, so you don't have like two vague messages, error messages. So if there's an error message, you want like to be more specific, and that's what you'd like to be doing, inshallah. So this being said, now what we have is we have opened. Hold on, we have read the line. We checked if it's not null. We converted it. Now we need to read it again. And you know what? Something that is kind of better is to have this in a do while, because we need to actually not declare it again. Because we need to do it twice. So actually, basically, what I can do something like this. Anyways, but I have to the first time I need to know if it's not empty. So actually, the do while might be more problematic here. So you know what? I'm just going to leave it as it is without this do while, and yeah. So let's keep it for the with the while at this time, and then we'll see with the do while later. I don't want to confuse you much, but let's just keep it like this for now and just test it, make sure it works. So now what we did, we used the buffered reader to read, and we put that hopefully in the array. We closed because we're done, and then we displayed normally the array. We should see it, and then it will write it in the same file, and then it should be okay. So the content is like this. Let's just go open the other file, see if they're the same. They're the same. So actually, just to make sure, I'm just going to delete it again and run the program so we can see it. It will appear and with the same content. And this concludes the exercise number 7. Number 8 is rewrite the program number 4 using the buffered reader. So instead of using this to read using the class scanner, we use the buffered reader, and this is what we're going to be doing. So let's just do that. It's the same idea, but just to practice working with the buffered reader. So let's go for question number 4. Let's look for that question number 4. I can just find it easily if I go to the navigator and go to the question number 4, and here it is, and I'm going to copy it and make it now question number 8. This is my 8. Now, instead of the scanner, I'm going to use the buffered reader. So the buffered reader is going to have this file reader, and instead of this reading like this next line, it has some read line. And I know I have 3 of them, so I'm going to use 3 of them, but it's better to have something else. And the same thing, it's not enough just to catch the file not found, but if I use IO, it's just going to catch them all. And this is the exercise number 8, when I'm just reading and displaying the first file using the buffered reader, by using input on the read line. I'm not testing how many, if I'm reaching the end of the line, because I know I'm not. But what happens if I don't and add something else? I'm trying to read something more. Well, this is just to show that, you know, when there's nothing else to read, it just gives you none. So when there's nothing else to read, it's none. So that's how this read line works. That's why we put a question here. Is if it's different than null, then it will it will do that. So that's question number 8. With the question number 9, write a program to write a binary file having numbers from 1 to 50. And let's do that. Alright, so let's create a new method, public static void question 9. And we'll do the same now. We need to open the file, but this time with the output, the object output stream. I'm going to write output again. New, I'm going to put stream, and then we put, hold on, new file output stream. And then what's the name of the file? Right file. So we don't have a name, so let's use the name that you like. I'm going to use test.txt. Alright, and semicolon. Now, as you can see, again, same idea. I need to surround with try catch. Actually, we have to have the file not found exceptions and the IO exception, both of them. So I'm going to use try, and it's going to show me, give me just one, which is the file not found exception. I need to add another one for the IO exception. But I will do the same idea and just keep one with IO exception and do something like there was a problem, and just get the message of that problem. So right, I opened an output, an object with a binary text file. I need to put the values from 1 to 50, so let's work on a loop. For loop from 1 to 50, from 0 to 49, but I'm going to do the same like I did with the my for output dot. I'm going to write an int. So I'm going to write an int, and it's not I, it's I plus 1. So instead of 0, it will be 1, and then 2. Instead of 49, it will be 50. So I'm just writing that, and when I'm done, just close. Now, it's interesting to see now how this is going to work out, because this is the first time where we'll see, if we double click on the file, now we'll see that we'll have a new file called test.txt. If we double click on it, and this is the result of that. So you can see it's not something that is readable, it's not a text. It's a set of data that is stored in a way that is not going to be visually seen. Maybe I can use another editor with Notepad++. This can maybe show something more. Not now. As you can see, there's a lot of weird characters because this is not meant to be textual, and that's the difference between a text file and a binary file. And the binary file basically is faster to process. So now, if you'd like to see what's inside, let's just go. I think the next question: write Java program to read the file created in an size between 9. I think that was expected to be 9, not 8. Hold on, this should be 9. I'll fix it later. So in 9, not 10. So let's do that. And in question 10, I'm just going to copy this and paste it again. We change it to 10. Now, instead of doing an output stream, object output stream, it's going to be input stream. And copy, paste, and instead of file output, it's going to be file input. I'm keeping the same file, and I would like to read now as long as I have to read, but I know that I can read 50 times because I know that's what I have, but let's just do that. I'm going to read an int, and I'd like to display it to the screen, so what I'm going to do is put that inside of sout, and not ln because there'll be 50, so I'm just going to put a space. and at the end close, just go back. And then we have this, it's not output, it's going to be input, because we'd like to read from it. So we open the test file for reading as a binary text. This is a binary text file. It's a binary file. Actually, you should have renamed it to, instead of txt, to something else, to something like this. But now I named it txt, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to read 50 times. I know that I have 50 numbers, so that's why I don't have a problem. But normally I should use a loop that is going to stop as long as I have something to read. If I don't have something to read, it should stop, like when I reach the end of the file. But let's see now how this is going to work out. So I run, it displays from 10, from 1 to 50, and then it goes back to the line. So that thing that was this weird thing that we were seeing when we tried to see it as if it's a text file, is basically these are the numbers. And the proof is that we were able to read them. So that's the idea. Write a Java program that creates a new text file named txt1, the txt, okay. Your program should check if the file already exists or not. If the file does not exist, create a new file and enter your personal details. But if the file exists, the program should give a message that file exists, and the program should terminate. So let's do that. Actually, yeah, I forgot. Before doing that, we wanted to talk about this, how to make it read until the end of the file. How can I do that with the binary file? So if now I know that there are 50, but what if I don't know exactly how many values do I have? And the way to do that is like this. First of all, I'm just going to make a while loop. Actually, it's going to be an infinite loop. The infinite loop, why? Because yeah, I'm going to keep doing this, keep reading until there's a problem. And when there's a problem, then something should happen actually. When I'm reading and there's nothing to read, there's an exception that's going to be thrown. And that exception, this is the one I'm going to catch. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep reading as long as there is no exception. And when there is an exception, a special exception, is this AOF exception. This is end of file exception. And this end of file exception means that I have reached the end of the file, there's nothing more to read. And once I have reached the end of the file, well, this is when I'm going to go back to the line. So now this code is just, there's a try inside of another try. And if as soon as this is going to raise the exception, which is the end of file has been reached, then I'm going to, it will just raise the exception, and I'm going to go back to the line. Just to make sure, and I have to do this, even though you see in the file I have this exception, I have to put a variable name, and it's not going to be used at all, but I cannot just remove it. You cannot just do something like this, and you have to have something in Java. That's something that you must have. So let's run it and see how this is going to work. And normally it should work the same way. As you can see, it stops at 50. If I had more, it will just keep going into more. But now this is not a loop where I know exactly how many numbers there are. I just read until I reach the end of the file. When I reach it, I just have an exception. I catch it. That means this is the time for me to go back to the line. And that's it. I cannot put this here because now if there's an exception, it's going to be raised by this line, which means I'm going to jump out and then I'm going to go to the catch. So this is not going to be executed at all. So that's why. And on top of that, this is an infinite loop. That means this line here will never be reached. So that's why this should be here. Okay, let's go back then. We said that we would like to create a new text file name. Your program should check if the file already exists or not. So before creating this, I need to check if it exists. How do I know? How can I check if it exists? Well, I will try to open it. And if I try to open it and there's an exception, file not found exception, that means it doesn't exist, and I will create it then. So that's how this is going to work out. So we would like to write a Java file to create a file name. Your program should check if the file already exists or not. If the file does not exist, then we create the file and we enter some information in it. But if it exists, we should give a message that the file exists, and then we stop. So let's do that. Hold on, now I'll go back here. So question 12. question 11. Question 11. It doesn't have to be object to be binary, so we're not going to make it binary because we'd like to see what's inside of it. So let's just public static void question 11, and we will use this scanner because we'd like to read input. I will try to read new scanner, new file input stream, and the name of the file is test1.txt. If I'm not mistaken, test1.txt. Okay. I will try to read to get that. Of course, now I have to surround this with the try catch, try with the file not found exception. Now, if it was not found, that means I know now the file was not found, and I need to stop. So that means the file doesn't exist. We will not do anything with it. So, because it says now, but if the file exists, the program should give a message that the file exists, and the program should terminate. Oh, okay, it's the opposite actually. I'd like to create if it does not exist. But if it exists, I will just write file exists, and then I should stop. So that means I'm trying to read it. If I find it, there's no exception. That means I'm going to do something like this: a boolean values found. If it's found or not, I'm going to make false. So that means if I'm able to open it, that means it's true. I found it. But if not, that means there was an exception. That means I did not find it. So I'm going to display that find not found. And this is now, I will create it. But if I find it, which just said the file exists, and then the program should stop. So because I find it here, I'm just going to say, okay, the file exists. The program is stopped. Will stop now. And how to stop the program? System.exit. And we'll put 0 because we don't want to put any number. That means we're going to stop. Now, if it exists, I will display what the file exists, and then I get out. Actually, I don't even need to do this. This found is actually not needed. I just still it's a variable for nothing, because if I reach this line over here, if I'm here, that means the program did not stop. The file was not found, and I'm going to find not found, and I will create it now. And I will try to actually. This will be much more accurate. I will try to create it now. And then how to create that? Well, I'm going to have this print writer. Basically, same file name. Actually, let's copy this. I can change that to, which is my output, equal new. This is not equal new. Print writer, and inside just put this. Basically, it was going to complain because it's not an input, it should be output. It's easy to change if I don't make a mistake. Now, this is complaining because, again, it has to be surrounded by try catch. So I'm going to put it inside of try catch, and if there's a problem, I will just raise that. You know what? And I'm going to make it as an IO problem, IO exception. So if there's any kind of problem, even when I'm reading and everything, or writing, in this case, it will just raise, it will be got here, and I'm going to display that there was a problem. And display what kind of problem. What kind of message that comes with the problem. Hold on. I did something wrong because I forgot the plus here. So now I'm opening the file for writing. I'm going to put the file it was mentioning that add some information, some personal information. I can just add the same information that I was doing here. Now let's just copy this. And to make sure that this is, I'm just going to change the order. I will start with the name and then the ID. And the last thing is outputs dot close. Actually, I'm just realizing that I did not close anything here. Actually, that's because I found it. I should have opened it. Now it's open. That means it's found. So I need to close it. Actually, so let's just, even if I'm doing nothing with it, just if I'm not using it, I don't need it. And let's close it. That's the point. You open, you close all the time. Let's take it as a habit, so you don't have some kind of weird problems. And now when I'm done, I just would like to display something on the screen that says, okay, file created, something like that, successfully. So this is my 11. Let's run it. So the file was not found. It will be created because obviously the first time we don't have this file, and now the file was created successfully, which is great. Now if I go here, look for this test1, here it is, double click, and this is the name and then the ID in that order. Now if I run it again, of course it will exist now, and it would say file exists, the program will stop now, and then it stops. And this is the exercise number 11. Now rewrite the questions, but this time ask the user to input the file name. Basically, it's just a very basic thing. Instead of me having to put this here, I will just each time I will have, before that, for each one of those questions, I will have a copy and paste scanner. I'm going to go to KB, use scanner, and system.in. Remember this very beautiful line of code that we've been using for so long. Now just need to have a variable to have a file name. Let's make it string file name, and I'm going to just ask the user to give it to me. Give KB.next line, because I'm going to read the whole line, and just ask the user, please enter the file name. Now every time I just need to mention the file name, and that's it. No big deal. And I need to replace now the file name with this. File name with this. And that's it for this question. Now if I'd like to do it for the others, well, basically it's the same thing. I'll just copy this whole thing and paste it again everywhere. Okay, now I'll replace this with file name. And same thing again, let's copy for each of every single question. Same thing, this is file name. Every time I have a file name, it's going to be the same. So I think I got the point. There's no need for me to do the rest. We can do that. But I'd like to test one though, so let's test this one. We have question 11 already here, so let's test it. I'm just going to run this. Just please enter the file name. Okay, what was the file name? test1.txt. Now this is going to file exist when we stop. Okay, let's run it again, and let's give it another name. Now I'm going to read test2.txt. So file not found. I will try to create it now. Okay, file created successfully. Now if I go back here, I can find the test2, and this is the information. All right, so that concludes this set of exercises. Let's hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk about that. All right, so this concludes this set of exercises. Hope you benefit from them.